Greetings, you wonderful mutants. Joel Clark here, Emperor of all fist games. We remain on the final stretch. I took a little bit of a hiatus on doing Chapter 7 to avoid burnout. It's a very content-heavy chapter. You guys have got 2 of the 7 lores done right now. Should be available. I think I posted that up. I'm going to make sure it's posted on the Patreon and linked and everywhere. So you can see that there's a lot there, even though I've cut it down a lot from my initial estimates of what I wanted it to look like. Which much more closely matched how much was in Yun Suin. I'm realizing just how content deep Yun Suin really is, and I'm also realizing that I don't necessarily have to bring that much to the table in what is effectively 1/7 of a book that is just kind of giving you little sparks that's going to help you fill out a more or less vision-accurate version of the World of Ashes and Ghosts for yourself. So we have 5 more left. Radioactive Scorpions are next, which is the one I'm really looking forward to. They're kind of the iconic faction. We've got a rad scorpion on the cover of the book, and they don't have the you are already dead Fist of the North Star stuff, but they do have the Road Warrior stuff. So they're a very important faction. They're very close to my heart. I love writing for them. They're extremely fun. And so I went today to a comic shop and I checked out some Tank Girl, and it really filled up it filled up all of my little internal creativity wells. So we're going to get back into that. I've set myself a soft deadline for next week. I now have book 6 edited back from Albert, so this is literally the last chapter. Feels good. We have 5/7 of that chapter to write. I'm talking with Vic Andrade, our layout guy, next week. Once I get that done and sent to Albert, I'm going to be telling him about how I want the book to get laid out. I finally have a pretty clear vision for how it's going to look and how it's going to be used in play. I'm really happy with where we are with it. Thing I have been doing, I joined a little OSR jam. My friend Taylor Lane is hosting one, and it's going on this month. It's a weird OSR jam. It's basically like, what if you had a version of D&D that had so many house rules that it was like basically its own game, but it could kind of still be used with modules and dungeons and the monsters and all that. And I think that's a nifty idea. So I decided to do kind of my own little take on what if I wanted to add more Chronicles of Amber to D&D, and I wanted to do a set of cards instead of a D20 to do the rolls, and put in elements of Dune that I like with the cards and the bluff and all that. So I designed a game that encourages bluff and also encourages a little bit of PvP, and I've just been kind of kicking that around. It's a little 5,000 word OSR adjunct kind of thing that I'm going to be releasing here in the next couple of days. I'm finishing up the writing on it today and probably a little bit tomorrow too. So that's been really refreshing. It's nice to get away from a big project and work on something little that kind of forces you to think in another way. Previous to that, I prepped something for my D&D, my home D&D game, which was based on Pathologic, which I really like Pathologic. I've not played the whole thing through because it's punishingly difficult. But I have watched the whole review from Harry Brewer, I think his name is, H Bomber Guy is what it's under, and it's just him going on for like an hour and a half about how much he loves Pathologic because it's so not fun to play, but that makes it something else that's still like satisfying to engage with, and it's really entertaining. So I highly recommend that. But anyway, I liked that a lot. I liked the idea of Pathologic more than the actual game of Pathologic, and so I wanted to do something like that for my D&D game, and I found it surprisingly hard to write content for that. It actually took me a whole day of sitting there like, well, wait a minute, what do I want them doing? What is it that I want players to do? And I found in taking this time to really think in detail and critically evaluate what I wanted the players to be doing, it had helped me clarify my thinking a lot about how to make content for games. And that's something I've been really concerned about. That's one of the things that has kept Lone Wolf Fist from going from just because I could have published it several iterations back. We've had the core system, the fight system, and all the powers for a year now, more than a year at this point. That part is done, and that's enough to publish. A lot of games, most games, publish with just that. But I've been realizing as I've been writing it, and as I've been hesitant to say, oh, it's done, let's release it, I've been very hesitant about that. And the reason I realized that I was hesitant is because that's really only part of a game. It is, because you also need the part where you are talking to the GM very clearly about not only how you expect the game to be used at the table, like what you expect people to be doing, why you expect them to be doing that, how you are supposed to pace and run the game, but also in addition to that very frank and clear and detailed and specific discussion with the GM, you also want to give them the tools and tell them how to use the tools to make content that players can interact with in that way. So you need, how do the players interact with this game? How do you make content for that game? And then how do you bring those two things together in a very frank way? And so, like, those three very, very distinct chunks are all necessary in my mind to make a complete, usable role-playing game, like an actual new game system that a GM can actually use. And I don't really think you've completed a role-playing game until you have all of them. You can have any individual part of that. Like, personally, I like going on, say, the Alexandrian website, because he talks a lot about like how you run games in a practical way, and he also talks about ways you can prep for games, and a lot of this stuff is kind of like tilted towards Dungeons and Dragons-esque games, and not all of it. He like me is a game gourmand and consumes a lot of them and thinks about them in detail. Justin Alexander is a genius, and I really like reading his stuff. If you haven't gone to the Alexandrian, high recommendation for me. The guy is brilliant. And he does such a great job, and this is something that I admire and try to integrate in my own writing. He does a great job of bringing things back to first principles, and he goes really deep into that. Like, he goes all the way back to, why are we even playing this game? What are we getting out of it? Like, why do we like these different elements of RPGs? Why do parts of RPGs that are kind of universally agreed upon to not really work, why don't they work? What's wrong with them? What do we actually want to be happening? That's some really important stuff to think about. And he does a wonderful job of articulating those things with specific language and laying them out in an intuitive way and talking about them in this wonderful, structured, disciplined way that is great for conveying meaning and having a meaningful discussion about games and how we interact with them. This is a little nerdier than I expected it to get. I'm sorry. I meant to be a little more intense and excited because, like, we're right here at the finish line. And I have actually intentionally delayed it. I do apologize for that. I want you guys to get the best content, and I hate to be the guy that leans on the crutch of, you know, you can release a bad game quickly and it's bad forever. But, you know, if you take the time to make it a good game, even if it takes a long time to get there, it's good forever. You guys paid for the best I could possibly give you, and I apologize that it's taken so long to get there. I honestly thought this whole project would have been wrapped up 6 or 7 months ago. I ran into a lot of personal stuff that really delayed it a lot more than it needed to, and I finally got past that, and I'm working all of it out and getting everything kind of feng shuied where it needs to be. And it's still a lot. Don't let me unsell this stuff. There's still a lot of stuff I'm dealing with on a personal scale, but 2 chapters last month. That's not nothing. And we're on the last chapter now. This is the month when the last chapter is written. Now, does that mean you're going to have the book in your hot little hands? I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take Victor to lay out. He's really fast. And we're almost done with editing, which is really nice. However, you deserve the best. So in addition to Albert Lim's editing, I'm also going to give the whole document to David Ramirez and get his full feedback. I am also going to go through the document with some of the feedback I have gotten from playtesters very recently, and a few older playtesters who these wonderful people have given me messages in various places. I've got them on Twitter, and I've got some email, and I've got some on Discord. And I'm going to go through all of those things, and I'm going to consider all of the things they say, because that stuff communicates volumes. And I'm going to very carefully evaluate what's there, and I might move some stuff around into different sections so it fits a little bit better. I might edit down certain sections a little bit so they're a little cleaner. Little things like that. And there's a few actual rules that I'm not entirely content with. I'm really not entirely content with the way that falling damage works. Like, that's a little wonky. I'm not entirely content with the language that I used to talk about how machines take damage. I think it's a little cloudy, and it could use some clarity. Same thing with a lot of the kind of stranger rules that are only referenced once or twice in the book. Resource nodes and things like that. I recently got a lot of feedback about followers and how kind of cloudy, how sort of nebulous followers are as a concept. Like, what is a follower? And it made me realize that, I mean, like, a lot of the way I run games is something that's been really ingrained. I've been doing it for, like, literally a decade or multiple decades in some cases. So, like, something like a follower, the idea is crystal clear in my head. Like, a follower is someone that does something very specifically for you. It's not just an NPC you like, it's like an NPC that you ask to do dangerous things for you. So that's a different thing, and crossing that ontological boundary between NPC that hangs around you and NPC that does what you say, like, that's meaningful, and that meaning isn't conveyed in follower because I took for granted that people used followers the same way I did. And there's a lot of little things like that, you know. There's a lot of little Joelisms and quirks in this that I just overlooked because I didn't have other people like proofreading it for me, and because it wasn't all there. It's not really possible to proofread until we've got to this advanced stage. So as much as I want to just kick it out the door and say, okay, into editing, or we're done with editing, into layout, PDF format, go. As much as I want to do that, I'm going to restrain myself, and I did this with the All Above Heaven draft too. I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to read it piece by piece, and I'm going to honestly evaluate it. And I'm going to change the little rules that need to get changed. I'm going to clarify the rules that need to get clarified. I'm going to cross-reference more. And only when I'm done with that really high-level conceptual, like, fix all the final little pieces tech edit, only then am I handing it to Vic for layout. Because not only does he have to do layout, we also want to have I want to have at least a table of contents and an index minimum in that thing. And I would like, ideally, to have them hyperlinked in the PDF so they're really easy to use whenever you're running it online. I don't run things online, I don't run from PDF, but a lot of y'all do, and you deserve to have a functional document. Just as much as the guys who want to do hardback deserve to have like a really good index and cross-references and page number references, they deserve to have that. It's just basic functionality of the product. So there's a bunch of not super interesting, but unfortunately very detailed and technical stuff that still has to get done to take this from the raw text to being the game, to being the product it needs to be. So the text is pretty much there. Like I said, we are 5 segments of the last chapter away from the text being completed, and we are that chapter's editing away from it being totally edited. That's an advanced stage, but the sausage is not quite done yet. So we've got to add a little bit of value to it. And I think that value is going to really matter. I think people are going to be able to use it, and they're going to be able to learn it and teach it, and that's critical to especially a brand new system like this one, kind of getting off the ground and finding the full audience it wants to find. You know, I want people to play my Idiot Punch game. I really do. And I want them to enjoy it, and I don't want to have to constantly answer questions about it. I don't mind doing that with playtesters at all. Actually, I love it whenever people come in and they think enough of this game and believe enough in it to come and be like, okay, how does this work? How does this work? That tells me they're using it and they're thinking critically about it. That's fantastic. I'm not going to be there for all of them. Ideally, the audience will be big enough that it's going to be impossible structurally for me to answer those questions. So they should be answered in the text clearly enough that the no-brainer confusions that I want there to be, that sentence just died in my mouth. I don't want there to be anything I consider to be a no-brainer. I want to be a no-brainer. There we go. That's what I want to say. Like any of the stuff that is intuitive to me, I want to be as intuitive to a reader of the text. And I also want it to be functional. You know, I want you to be able to crack the spine on this thing and look at the table of contents and be like, okay, I read role-playing games this way. I do character creation first, so it's not the first section, but I know where it is and I can flip right to it. I read role-playing games, I read the resolution system first. I look at the character sheet first. People have different ways of reading a role-playing game, and I've never known a person who just cracks the spine and reads it page by page. If you do, cool. I wrote it to be read like that. It should be entertaining and revelatory in a way that increases your understanding page by page until you understand the whole thing. With very little cross-referencing necessary. But, like, I'm not going to rely on that. These are cookbooks. You don't read a cookbook straight through. It's a little weird to do, you know? And I want the people, the wonderfully eccentric RPG book readers out there who will think enough to pay me money for this experience, to buy the game. I want them to be able to read it and experience it the first time the way they want to. And for players of this, I want them to be able, I want the GM to be able to give them a very brief description, like just basically throw the pitch out there that's written in the text already and hand them character sheets and be like, okay, here's the section, which one of these guys looks cool? All right, which one of these types of character looks cool? Okay, so there's your stats. Roll on this thing. Here's your thing. Let's go. I got feedback about the rolling too, by the way. I think the sort of like living world principle, it's not intuitive to a modern RPG audience. I think we all kind of have this idea that there's going to be this kind of enforced fairness, and I really don't give a shit about that to the point where I kind of hate it. I don't want enforced fairness. I really do want people to start off, like some people have like a knapsack full of garbage, and some people have like a magic sword that can cut through mountains. Like, I really do want that much disparity. And I think that's cool and fun, because I made a dangerous game. Like, I made Titans. Like, you guys see the bestiary? I expect those to show up in a game. Whenever they show up, at some point, the players are gonna the players are gonna think, all right, we don't want to go in this, kung fu dungeon. Let's just fuck off, get in the Jeep, and drive and see what's out there. And I want them just to be driving across like the fiery wasteland of the desert, and to see a mountain in the distance, and then to realize that it's coming closer to them, and just have it shoot an arc of energy that just rips through the desert and causes this gigantic calamity. Like, I want that genuine moment from players where they realize that this system can punch back, and I love that. That's the point whenever the guy with the sword that can cut through a mountain is like, okay, you know what, we might be able to survive this. I like that stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of losing steam here. I'm about 20 minutes. I'm a millennial. I can't focus on anything for more than 30 seconds at a time. Point being, I don't actually know. I've never actually gotten an RPG this far to being this completed before. Not on this scale. I did it for All Above Heaven, the little All Above Heaven intro adventure that I did. And I remember once we got the editing back from Albert, and he's a fantastic editor. He did it very quickly. And he hasn't taken more than a few days to edit any one of these chapters. He's extremely professional. He's very thorough. And he has a good idea for the voice and how the voice should be applied. But like, once we get that back from him, and I don't suspect it'll take more than a week, the real hang up again is going to be me. I'm going to be the guy going over it and being like, okay, we need to do a comprehensive tech edit. I actually don't know how long that's going to take. When it comes to Vic and layout, again, maybe 3 or 4 days per chapter. It's only 7 chapters, so he might take a month. It might take a month for him to do the layout, and because I want him to do the layout, I want him to do a character sheet. I would not mind doing a couple of like cheat sheet things for the process of the game, like the attacks and defenses and how those work, like doing skills. There's a couple of sections of the book I want to spruce up pretty significantly. I might actually alter the way XP gets gained pretty significantly. It's okay right now. It isn't used. I don't even use it, practically speaking, in-game. It takes a little bit too much system understanding to make it work. And I don't like that. I like the play off the sheet kind of stuff. And I need to really crack down on what it is I want the XP system to be doing, because I like the idea of players getting mixed up in stuff, and then the XP system basically being them adhering to these higher principles at a personal cost. They're sacrificing the cheap and easy way of doing things, and they're getting involved in acting like heroes, and that's difficult, and I want that to be the action that rewards them, and I'm not really sure if I'm doing that right now with the way it kind of feels like that's what I'm aiming at, but I don't know if I hit the mark with that one. And thankfully it is a modular enough system that I should be able to like yank it out, work with it significantly, and put it back in, and there should be very little in the text. I don't think there's very much in the text that references it right now at all. So it shouldn't be too tough of a fix to take one part out and do what needs to get done on it to make it work. I don't have the luxury of playtesting that a whole bunch, but I'm willing to bet that with the playtest feedback I do have and with the playtest feedback I have from my own games, I can probably think of a way to make it a lot more player-facing so it's more obvious to them what I want them to be doing, and I can communicate that more cleanly to a GM. So that's the part I want to significantly change. Again, I don't know how long that's going to take me. That is design. Again, it's a redesign. And I would like to be able to estimate it. If I'm estimating a week and a month for layout and for writing this final chapter, I'm not sure how long that tech edit's going to take me. Probably not more than a week of like really delving into it 2 or 3 hours a day. If I can dedicate to it, I can probably get it done, kicked out in a week or so. So that leads us at about a month and a half. And then when it comes to getting all the page XXs turned into references, getting a table of contents, and I really actually have no idea how to do hyperlinks in a document, nor do I know how to format a document this big, A, for PDF, so that it's really convenient for you guys to use and looks high quality, and B, further format it so that it can be turned into the hardback book. I don't actually know how to do those things, so that's some stuff I'm going to have to figure out. And thankfully, I have a big group of people online, like all you wonderful guys in the Fistiverse. And I call you guys. I've been using male gendered pronouns exclusively for this. I'm kind of just doing that to take the piss. I'm not trying to assume anyone's gender or anything. I'm far enough left that y'all should know that that's actually kind of an issue for me. Like, I use gender neutral language in this text. I do. So far that hasn't lost me any fans that I'm aware of. And if I have, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I am a person with my own politics. I keep them out of my game as much as I can. Wow, I'm really tired. What the fuck did I even do today? Jesus. Okay, this has gotten rambly. Let's wrap this up. Current estimate, month and a half, 2 months to get the sausage totally done. I don't actually... That should be on the out. In the meantime, you guys will have the living playtest document, which will be very, very close to the final document. The rules are there. They are done, as far as I'm concerned, with very little changes in the future for them. So you guys can actually play this if you want to online, and I will still be accepting playtest feedback for as long as you want to give it. Anytime someone wants to come on the Discord and tell me about my game, or tell anybody about my game, I listen. Trust me, I read it and I listen and I integrate it. If I can make the changes, if there are changes I think that would improve the game, they get made. If it's too late and the game's been published, then there are changes that'll get made in all above heaven. It is getting to the point where I can't integrate everything and rechange everything. Most of this game works really well. I'm going to call it good on that. But there are going to be more games down the line. Me and David were kicking around an idea for a somewhat more low-powered version of Lone Wolf Fist. And I actually think a more low-powered version would work even better. I initially sold this thing on a lot of hype with the idea that you kind of scrape the belly of heaven with the very zenith of power at the late game of this, and then that would kind of ease you into doing the all above heaven stuff where the power is even more absurd. So I've had some time to contemplate the foolishness of that endeavor. And I still think that's generally what I'm going to do, but man, it's going to be tough to design. I did this much. We'll see about the next one. So yeah, you'll have the playtest document, which is going to be more or less complete. Maybe 2 months for the PDF to be fully done. I'm imagining I'm going to be doing the PDF and the formatting for the hardback more or less simultaneously. Like, what I imagine there's going to be is either one file, if it can work that way, or 2 files that are very, very minorly different. One is just like optimized to be a print on demand. And yeah, after that we're shipping them out. Now, one other thing I want to bring up, and I know this is going to take for fucking ever. One other thing I wanted to bring up was that I still do want to get in touch with all of my super elite level backers, all my Ming Zhao of the Apocalypse and all the Armageddon Sensei's and all those guys. I want to get in touch with all of you one more time before I wrap up your sections, because I want to make sure, A, that I've got them completed to your specifications, and B, if I haven't gotten to the point where I've really hammered down any specifics about them yet, because a couple of them I only kind of talked to you guys a little bit. I really want to go over them again with you and make certain that we're like, if it might be necessary to have another meeting just to make sure I'm getting what you want in the game. Because it's all kind of going to get, what my current vision for where it's going to be is, instead of being integrated into the body of the text, I'm just going to have this little segment at the end of the book, which is just the backer content. Just because, like, the core game is really what everybody has bought, and the other content, although it should be usable with the game, is almost like a whole nother book. There's actually enough of it there that, like, it's kind of like the first supplement. Rather than turning that into a second product, which was one of my initial ideas with it, I'm just going to kind of put it at the end of this product. And I actually got inspired for that one from this wonderful game that I kickstarted. I didn't actually kickstart it. I just bought one of these post-Kickstarter. But Neon Lords: The Toxic Wasteland. This is a really funny, fun little game. And they kind of did that at the end of it here. There's like additional adventures and a bunch of extra content just right at the end of the game. And these guys did a lot right when it came to doing the exact game they wanted to do. They did these as appendices. And these are optional rules, in addition to like things like mech armor and additional content that isn't necessarily like central to the core game, but it's really neat to have these options, and it gets you thinking about stuff you want to do with it. I mean, it's cyber augmentations, playing monsters, and then they have an entire adventure at the end of it. Rad Adventures in a Forgotten Future. Actually, it's more than one adventure. All right, barf bags. That's great. They have wonderful little maps and all the stuff you would do for an adventure, and there's several of them here. And I actually quite like that. I quite like that there's this little section of extra goodies at the end of the product. Because it feels like I've got this full, and it's a full and complete game. It's a wonderfully complete game. It's an old school Renaissance style, it's like a basic expert style romp. Very, very cool. And it's extremely characterful and neat. I've actually had the pleasure of speaking with the person who wrote it, or some of the people that wrote it, and the main guy that wrote it. And extremely cool people, answer questions very graciously, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely cool. And I can't wait to run it. Once my current campaign wraps, that's going to be the next one. After the volumes of playtesting I'm no doubt going to be doing for All Above Heaven. But I'm definitely going to be running that on the side. That's going to be my side piece right there. The point I'm trying to make here is that I do want to make sure I'm contacting all of you, and I also want to make sure to give you an idea of like kind of where I want to put your content in the book, because I want to make sure that people come across it not as just another part of this game, but like as this sort of hidden treasure at the end of it that just delights them. They're like, wow, I've got this whole game, I've got an entire bestiary, I've got all these lores, all these factions, all these powers, and here's a bunch more. Here's a bunch more extra stuff. Because I do want to do supplements for this game. I already have a few adventures I'd really like to flesh out from various playtests that I've done. And I've had people pitch me adventures for this game that I would really like to encourage them to write, and so that I can publish them and pay them for their writing. And like, I want that stuff. And I want GMs to be able just to grab it if they don't have time to prep their own stuff, and just be able to use it and get the Lone Wolf Fist experience. And in a lot of ways, the way I've written the content is kind of a template for that. The lore section is kind of a template for how I imagine content's going to be put together. The GM section has a really clear section on how to make stuff for the game, and then how to use the stuff that you made. And when it comes to that last little nugget, that last little eighth bonus chapter, I want it to kind of feel that way. I want it to feel like if you look through this whole tome and you find a lot of stuff that you like, and you're just hungry for more, you just kind of come across this wonderful little trove of extra secret cool content at the very end of it. I love that little feeling of delight, because I get a feeling of genuine joy turning the page and realizing that there were adventures, like multiple adventures I could go on. I was like, this is fantastic. And I want that feeling. I want that feeling for all the backers and all the people that come after the backers. I'm sure there's going to be someone who buys this afterwards. And I want them to be able to have that same little feeling of joy. And I honestly, like, I've worked with almost all of you in at least some significant detail. A few of you I've glossed over a bit much. We'll come back to it, and you'll get the full royal carpet treatment you've so rightly paid for. But the reason the reason I say that moment of delight is like a sure thing is that it would delight me. The ideas that you all have brought into this game, they're really cool. And they're unique and stuff I wouldn't have thought of. And I've been really honored to work with all of you and find ways to articulate your visions. It's fantastic to be a part of that process. And I'm really glad you thought enough of my humble little idiot punch game that you shared these ideas that you had with me. They're fantastic ideas, and they're really adding something of really deep value to the game that I'm delighted with, and I'm really thinking that people that pick up this game are going to be delighted with too. They're going to have real significant different options that do really cool creative things. So bravo, bravo, you fantastic Lords of the Apocalypse. You really kind of made my entire decade with that stuff. Anyway, I'm going to brush my beard out. I've got D&D to go to tonight. Thanks for listening to me bloviate for half an hour. I won't take too much more of your time with getting this game prepared. I just kind of want to get you all on board where we were, and just kind of just generally talk about it. It's been a little while since I got in front of the camera, so I guess I had a lot to say. Keep on being awesome in the Fistiverse. I will see you guys online, and until next month, I suppose. This is Joel Clark signing off.